That's Delightful,
a member of the Pod Bros Network.
Welcome to That's Delightful. Online at facebook.com/That's Delightful. Now time for That's Delightful.
So then this is edition 67 of That's Delightful.
Ian's 40.
And I'm 40.
Kelly's 39.
Let's go ahead and just blurt that right out.
Michelle's insufferable.
And that means amazing.
Since our last podcast, which has been a while, in between our last podcast and now, we've done a drunk episode. Now, here's the deal with the drunk episode. I haven't finished it yet. I haven't edited it down yet. The reason it hasn't been edited down yet is because normally with these movie episodes, all I got to do is tighten a couple of things up and post it. Well, then Kelly said, hey, there's some things, if you wouldn't mind scrubbing out of that podcast that we did. Just because I would like those things out. So instead of being able to just condense it down a little bit and then post it, I have to watch or listen to the whole 2-hour movie again.
No, you don't.
I do.
Just let it run.
No. I'm not going to do that. Trust me, you don't want me to do that.
Can you guys remember anything that I said?
So the incident in question, from my best recollection, was not caught on tape.
Nor was it. No, I agree. However,
I think you were.
This is making it sound very sinister. At one point, I got my phone out and started texting unadvisedly, and talking about texting. And for the protection of the innocent, I think it best not to include me.
I'm not trying to villainize you. I'm not. I'm just saying.
I liked my legalese, and you fucked it up. Thank you.
Well, it's because you made it sound like I started shaking my wang at passersby.
Because of the alleged incident. Because of the alleged incident in question, a 2.5-hour movie that should take about 10 minutes to post will take about 3.5, 4 hours now. So I've just been procrastinating.
I hope when Kelly explains what this was on tonight's podcast, you do a loud beep over it, like beep. Then we just refer to it
worst.
as the incident in question.
So Ian and Michelle had some tension right before we started this episode, and the only thing it took to bring them back together on a team is the chance to fuck with Kelly. Let's just be clear.
Anyway, so fuck Kelly. And
it's Dr. Abbott to you.
Oh, wow, narcissist much?
Couple things to make note before we get started. Again, a big thank you to all of our donors at patreon.com/That's Delightful. If you'd like to donate and maybe score a badge in the process, courtesy of the badge a minute, some have been sent out. If you would like one, you know where to go, patreon.com/That's Delightful. Then reach out and let us know what you want on that badge. Now, also, you can find us on Twitter at DelightfulCast and facebook.com/That's Delightful. Plus, don't forget about our voicemail, 209-232-5807. Now, I want to mention one other thing before we get started. By the time this episode posts, I will have done a stint on the Blokebusters podcast. The Blokebusters is a podcast you can find at the Pod Bros Network. And they needed basically a guest host to come in because one of them's taking a sabbatical right now. And so they're lining up different people from the Pod Bros. And I said, hey, I'll go on there with you guys. And they said, okay, great, pick a movie and we're going to critique it. So I picked V for Vendetta. And I watched it today. And I'm going to go on tomorrow. So I will have been on the show before this podcast episode actually gets published. But as I was watching V for Vendetta, and V for Vendetta came out in 2005, and I thought, wow, this is very similar to kind of like the political climate we have now. It's even more true today if you watch V for Vendetta than it was in 2005. Some of the parallels in that movie, which are very, very, very frightening. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it recently, but it's frightening.
I love that
to say the least.
Well,
I love
I'm watching The World End, and that's also frightening.
So anyway, Blokebusters on the Pod Bros Network, yours truly, one Ian Riley, will be on there. I don't know how long it takes them to post an episode, but I'm going to do a stint tomorrow.
Can you do a pitch for me to be a guest host at some point? Because I want to watch Spice World with them.
Yes.
Tell them that they need to do Spice World, and it needs to be with me. And you're welcome, world.
I will tell him tomorrow on the show.
Sweet.
I will say it during the show so that it's like out in the universe. We'll Oprah the shit out of that.
Yeah.
We'll put it out in the universe and make it happen.
Since that ignores me completely as a leg of the show, I think that next time
I ignored both of you. This was an equal opportunity ignoring.
I think that next time we do a drunk episode, I understand that we have to watch Geely. We'll get the Geely thing out of the way. I really, after a bout of insomnia the other night, have decided that I want you to watch 50 Shades Free.
You want me to just skip right to...
You don't need to watch any other one. It's amazing.
But when they tie each other to various bedposts, how will I know the context?
You don't need to
Laters,
know more
baby.
than that.
Laters.
You don't. So,
Okay.
so you have to, and you'll get it.
That could actually be pretty fun.
It is. It's amazing.
We need to get me drunk more often. By the way, Batman v Superman. Ian, how was it watching it again the other night? Was it? Did it hold up for you?
Yes, it did.
Did it?
Yes.
I think that the way I love 50 Shades Free.
I think
it's a terrible movie. You know it.
You love that the way I love SpaghettiOs. I don't.
I think you guys went into this thinking like Ian's going to watch this with a couple of people that he's friends with that are going to make some really good points on why this is a bad movie, and he's going to come away a changed man.
No, I
he's
didn't
going
think
to he's going to view this movie
I felt
differently.
like deep down in your soul, as you watched it and watched the dread
You're
spread
like the
across
Trump
our faces.
supporter.
I was just going to say that. God damn it.
You're like the Trump supporter of Batman v Superman. You're going to tell yourself that it's legit and there is a good plot line there.
I'm MB
Ian started preparing my drinks at some point, and it was my memory of that night gets spotty towards the end as a result. But what I remember is truly dreadful. Just so much worse than I could have ever imagined.
I think the problem is I don't think any of you actually watched the movie because you.
Oh, no, I
literally-
watched it.
You talked through the whole movie.
You know
That's
what
we were recording a goddamn podcast.
But you could watch like a minute or two to like stay caught up.
No, because
My
then that's dead air. That's
It's
dead.
not. We have it playing in the background.
my favorite part
Oh,
is
no.
when you got up towards the end because you were totally wasted. You got up toward the end to go to the bathroom that you'd been to a few times and sat in our hallway for a good
Did I
10
really?
seconds trying to figure out where it was.
we don't
really?
We don't have a very long or complicated hallway either.
I do not remember
No,
that.
you stood like right next to it.
Hey, you know what I discovered though when I went to your bathroom? We're both American Crew boys.
Yes, we are.
That is the only way to wash your hair. I don't know if that's revealing too much on our podcast, but if you haven't tried American Crew, I think you use
Tree.
American Crew Tea Tree. I default to the shampoo conditioner combo. It's a little crisper, not as intense, but you really can't go wrong.
See, my relationship with American Crew right now is a little strained because I thought I suffered from dandruff, but when you and I went and got our haircuts together on the night that we went to the Casa Light of Hope dinner, the woman who was cutting my hair, after she brought everybody over to show all of her colleagues the shitty haircut that I got with you just a couple weeks prior at the flea market. First of all, she put that on display, and then she said, "You don't have dandruff. You've got a dry scalp. Dandruff shampoos aren't going to work for you, except for the really shitty ones because they're going to put basically a layer of plastic over your head." And I said, "Okay, well, I have the Crew tea tree oil." And she goes, "That's not going to take care of this. This isn't dandruff." And she got me this stuff there, and I have I forget what it's called anyway. I was using that. My relationship with American Crew is a little strained right now. I'm going to say it's complicated.
Why
smells
is it
wonderful.
your relationship with Head and Shoulders complicated? Because
Yeah.
Head and Shoulders is the one that made you think you had dandruff for years because they put plastic on your head.
Head and Shoulders-
Now you're killing ducks.
Head and Shoulders made the white stuff go away.
Wow. Is that how we get it to go away?
That should be the new ad campaign. You're welcome. Johnson & Johnson, are you listening?
Head and Shoulders makes the white stuff go away. You're fucking welcome. There's an underlying joke here that I'm not getting.
I don't know. Any
Okay.
reference to white stuff?
Any white stuff. You could talk about white men, white people, white cum.
I was going to say,
Is there any other color?
white,
I think it can be yellow, and that's a sign of a bad egg.
sort of
thing.
eggshell.
Oh, that's not good.
A little bit. Y'all never took sex ed, really?
Did they cover the color of jizz in?
Is that the matte finish or the semi-gloss?
I don't know. Why would I know what color an infected jizz is? I don't want to know that.
We had
Never
this-
mind.
we had this
is a
conversation.
a
We
really
have. This
dark-
is
The
a
other day.
labyrinthine conversation.
Where all words that end with two Z's are delightful words. All All right, coming up, we're going to talk obviously about Russia because that went down since our last podcast. Rosenstein is being impeached. Guardians of the Galaxy minus a person, The Nerdist plus a person, and Demi Lovato's recent overdose. Let's get started with Russia because that's what happened the longest ago since we've podcasted last. How did I say that right? The longest ago? It's what happened least recently. So Trump goes to Russia, meets with Putin. They have a one-on-one. Helsinki, I'm sorry. Goes to Helsinki, has a one-on-one with Putin. The only people in that room are the translators. They come out, and then Trump basically says, I don't trust our United States intelligence findings that Russia hacked the election. He said, I have no reason to think that they would, or wouldn't, rather.
No.
Would.
He said would.
He said, I'll say this. I don't know why they would.
I don't know why they would.
Right.
America was like, whoa, motherfucker. That's not cool.
That's some treasonous shit.
Even Fox News, and I have a feeling they called him that night, and they were like, "Hey,
you want us to have your back? You better toe the damn line, Donnie.
Better find a way to take that back."
So then a few hours later, or a day later, he says, "I said would when I should have said wouldn't," and everyone's like, "Too little, too late."
No.
And then he doubles down again this past week and questions U.S. intelligence again.
But then he undoubled down and said they did interfere, but for the Democrats.
That's right. They interfered for the Democrats.
Who didn't win.
And will never win.
So they did, and then they didn't, and then they did, and then they didn't, and now they did, except they did it for the Democrats.
Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what happened in Charlottesville when he was apologizing for the American Nazis. And then the next day, read a perfunctory statement saying, no, I condemn this. And then the next day, doubled back on the double back with sort of a wink and a glimmer in his eye.
There's bad people on both sides, I think is what he said.
Right. And so he walks back the walk back until everything's so muddy that reality is pretty much his to define because people are dizzy from spinning around in circles and nobody wants to think about it anymore.
And then what did they do? They redacted like a whole...
So, I mean, it's been through so many different versions of reality, and this is why a movie like V for Vendetta is useful, or why copies of 1984 have been selling at a higher rate over the last year and a half, is that he is literally at this point telling people not to believe their eyes and not to believe their ears. He said that. He was in Kansas, or not Kansas, but Nebraska or whatever, a day or two ago, and he's standing in front of a friendly audience saying, don't believe the things you're reading. Don't believe the things you're hearing. Don't believe the things you're seeing. None of it's true.
So I kind of touched on this with Kelly this morning. It reminds me of, and I don't know if you remember this, but a couple years ago, Jack was eating a pickle on the couch. He was like 4. And I told him, Jack, you're not allowed to have a pickle on the couch. You need to eat it at the table. So I watched him hide the pickle in the couch and tell me he didn't. And I was like, there's a pickle in the couch, and I kept trying to find it, and you came out and Jack swore that he didn't put the pickle there even though I saw it, and you were like, well, I don't see a pickle. And I was fucking crazy because my kid hid a pickle on the couch, and then you found it and ate it.
I ate it?
As one
Yeah,
does.
you did. You found it, you're like, oh.
But that's serious. Like the last year and a half, I've been like, Donnie, you're not playing with the Russians, are you, Donnie? No, Donnie, don't you get too cozy with Vladimir Putin. I won't. And then he comes out at this news conference and tells everybody that he's buddies with Vladdy now, and that the American intelligence community has gotten everything wrong, and he doesn't know why Russia would ever attack us. And then the next day, he sits up and says, actually, a funny thing, I said I don't know why they would attack us, when what I meant to say was the exact opposite of that. And the real fun thing was to watch all of his apologists. On the day that he said it, people jumped through hoops to say, well, no, I mean, if you think about it, it's really good for us to be, he probably said it because of this, we probably should be closer with Russia. And for a whole day, everybody was tripping over themselves to explain it away. And then the next day he goes, everybody, I meant the opposite of that. And they're like, yeah, obviously he meant the opposite of that, guys. You know, you heard him.
Well, my favorite was the day of, when there were comments all over Facebook where people were like, no, this is part of his plan. And I'm like, what plan?
Yeah, the plan to make us look like assholes.
Plan?
This is a master negotiator who recognizes that we need to be close with and friends with somebody that could harm us. Like, we need to align ourselves with this person.
Do you remember
and be on solid ground.
When he did that with Kim Jong-un, and Kim Jong-un was like, ha ha ha, I'm not doing that.
Or when the country of Iran, with whom we actually had a treaty to decrease their nuclear program, and then Trump discovered caps lock on his phone and tweeted in all caps.
The likes of which you have never seen. Every country has seen it from America.
So pulled out of the agreement that we had, and then goes on the offensive to say, "Don't you dare!"
Right.
Well, you just pulled out of the agreement, fucker.
So this is what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is when you confuse an issue upside down, inside out, sideways, and in every direction until people have no idea which way is up. They question their own experience of reality. He's telling people that literally the words he said are not the words that he said, that the things they're seeing on camera are not the things that they're seeing.
Well, and they're actually doctoring the footage, and they're doctoring the transcripts. And like I said, this is that moment where I'm watching my kid do this, and he's telling me it didn't happen. We watched it happen. I literally saw that.
Yeah, so there was this shocking moment where, I mean, we had some really great questions at this conference that Trump and Putin were at, and somebody stood up near the end of the conference and asked Vladimir Putin a question, said, did you want President Trump to win the election, and did you ask your people to help him win? And Vladimir Putin said twice, he said, yes, I did, because Trump wanted to bring things back to the way they used to be. And the White House has their official transcript and their official video of it. And in the transcript, that question is doctored and now only says, did you ask your people to help him? It's context free. It doesn't refer to anything about wanting Trump to win. That's removed. And then Putin's answer sits the way that it was. And in the video, it's also doctored. They took out the first part of that question that has any reference to a question about whether or not Putin wanted Trump to win. And in the Russian video, the question is just completely gone. It's out. The question and answer are both gone. So they are, I mean, I don't know what they think we're going to do. I mean, the people who are not happy about what happened are going to know that it was doctored, and they're going to scream and yell about it, like I feel inclined to do. And the people that already support him aren't going to give a shit. So, I mean, it's just...
No, and I think it's really important that we keep reiterating that this isn't, I feel almost like maybe unlucky because am I one of the last 10 people that actually read the Constitution? I don't know. And it's... You
and 9 others.
Right.
There should be a TV show about you.
Of the last 10 people that got to read, I am younger than you.
It'd be on Amazon Prime.
You probably read it in your day, but...
I'm 40. I was there when it was written.
But I mean, it's just weird. It's like people really don't know that we have all of these different things happening, and we're supposed to have separation of power, and it's not happening. And
he's systematically undermining anything that keeps him in check, and that includes this week threatening to take away security privileges from people that are his political enemies.
It wouldn't be so bad. It really wouldn't if we had Congress to check him a little bit. I mean, even just to not feed into it. Even if the majority didn't feed into it,
right.
That would be nice. But they're feeding into it. They're bending over backwards trying to figure out a way to legitimize everything that he's saying in order to pass their agenda.
And even the ones that don't fall for it, even like Paul Ryan clearly thinks that Donald Trump is an asshole.
Right, so does Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, but Mitch McConnell has chosen to be completely silent. Paul Ryan has decided to minimize and laugh off. People asked him yesterday, like, hey, isn't it pretty messed up that he would try to punish his political enemies by removing their ability to see confidential material? And he goes, that's just him trolling people. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's a fucking big deal. This is the kind of stuff.
So our leaders are trolling people. I mean, just to say it out loud, our nation's leaders are trolling people.
Somebody should tell Melania because she has some opinions about online trolls.
About cyberbullying, yeah, right. Be best.
Only for kids.
I want to go back to the Constitution thing here real quick because
me too. When can we do that?
Real quick, true story. True story. When John Hancock was going to sign the Constitution or
You
the
mean
Declaration,
Herbie Hancock?
Well, and I'm getting there. He was actually gonna say, wouldn't it be funny if I put down Herbie Hancock? And everyone else was like, no, John, put your real name down there. So Chris Farley and Tommy Boy was actually almost right. The only reason I know that is because I'm 40 and I was there. I watched the whole thing happen. Whole room busted up laughing. Crazy time.
I don't
Crazy
understand
time.
that
Sorry I
reference.
stepped on your Tommy Boy reference.
That's okay. That's you know what?
He had that whole joke lined up
right.
too.
You saw where I was going with that. That's why we have a Colleen Day.
It's true.
I don't see where anybody's going with that.
Hey, you know, with all the stuff that's happening with Russia right now and all the stuff that Trump is tweeting, and do you think, because Michael Cohen, his former personal attorney, had tapes he secretly recorded of Trump, and the FBI seized them, and on some of those tapes, Trump is talking to Cohen about paying off former flings. Some of the audio is unintelligible, but you can't tell if he's saying pay in cash or don't pay in cash. Either way,
Laurel or Yanni?
do you think that Trump prefers this coverage over the Russia coverage, that he prefers this to distract? Do you think that this stuff with the supermodels and the cheating and the stepping out on his marriage like he's doing even bothers him a little bit? Or do you think he welcomes it because it distracts from Russia right now?
I think he's more afraid of what else Michael Cohen has than he is of that. But
He's definitely, he might have colluded actively with the Russians. I think he probably did.
I don't think
But he
actively
definitely
did.
laundered money. He's definitely got tons of illegal activity in his business history, and his money is definitely fucking dirty.
I think he's terrified of what Michael Cohen has on him.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that he understands the implication of, if we had a real functioning government, the implication of what a sitting president, actively colluding with a foreign enemy would mean. But I do think he understands what, fucking security exchange and fraud is. So
Yeah.
it's
this tape is from a couple weeks before the election. The implication being that he might have used campaign funds to pay off one of his people. The discussion is about creating fake corporations and shell things to move the money around so that it's not traceable. And the thing about it is, it appears, because they waived attorney-client privilege on this, and a lot of people think that the Trump campaign was behind the leaking of this tape because it's sort of the least damning and the most easy to confuse. There are other tapes coming, but Rudy Giuliani is on all the news networks right now talking about
his dementia.
His dementia is on display for all to see,
Oh, okay.
for sure. But he's made all of that tape not about shell corporations or the fact that he's denied ever having an affair with this woman that he's now clearly referencing in this tape, but about whether they said cash or check, when that does not fucking matter. If he paid somebody off, you can write a campaign check to pay off a woman as easily as you can pay in cash. It's less traceable. But he's made this whole conversation about, it's kind of like that blue dress, white dress conversation
Yanni or
online.
Laurel.
It's like, oh, right. Yeah, totally.
It's still
if
a
they
fucking
get
dress.
everybody arguing, well,
Yeah.
no, he said cash. No, he didn't. He said check. It doesn't matter. That's not the important part of that tape. And that tape isn't the end-all, be-all. If that's all we had on him, then everybody should just put their...
He wouldn't have an attorney. Michael
Right.
Cohen wouldn't have an attorney if that's all they had.
For sure.
But
They're
it's-
good at framing the conversation, and they've got everybody squabbling about stupid shit instead of looking at the much larger picture.
So can we talk for a second also then about the tariffs that have hurt farming and the socialist movement to bail out the farmers?
What is it? The $12 billion handed out to farmers in relief amongst the tariffs?
Yes.
Yes.
And they don't really want that. They want a farm. They're not really interested in the relief, much like most of socialism. But
It's so funny. There's this new candidate from New York for Congress. So what is it, Ocasio-Cortez?
yeah,
She's like the big new poster child for socialism.
Oh, they're sending her everywhere right now. She's
Yeah.
ralllying up a storm.
She and
Because
Bernie
the
are sort of
conservatives-
campaigning against the Democratic establishment a little bit, which is fun.
but they're also campaigning, or they're also like the poster child for the conservatives for what Democrats are doing right now.
Yeah, but the funny thing is they're starting to embrace it. Like I don't remember where I was listening to this, but it makes a lot of sense to me. For a lot of years, they had a lot of traction with the socialism thing because they called Obama a secret socialist. Because Obama didn't come out and talk about socialist policies directly. It was all in sort of coded language because I think Democrats have always been a little skittish. Like it's the Nancy Pelosi thing of like, hey, don't scare people off. We're going to be moderate.
Vote.
And now, like, they can't use secret socialists because they're coming out and saying, no, we want health care for all. Like, they're wearing it on their sleeve, and it's a lot harder for the Republicans to attack that, especially when their president has just declared a trade war, and then to calm people down, just magics $12 billion out of the air that wasn't budgeted for, and he's going to distribute it among the farmers so that they can have money that they haven't earned through farming. So if that's not socialism, I don't know what is, but it sure undermines their conversation. Sorry about your corn crop.
But
here's $780.
but to touch on that, Obama was also not openly, he didn't outright come out and say that he was in support of same-sex marriage. He just got in office and was like, yeah, fuck that. It's legal now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's because at the time, like you said, the establishment Democrats were terrified of saying that out loud. And they still are. They're terrified of saying, that they want this. But the reality is all these people, they do want healthcare for all. They don't want to pay $1,500 in premiums that Obamacare did increase. I mean, it did. They were increasing anyway. But without regulating the insurance companies, you were just handing them a reason to increase their prices. But people want to be able to afford health care. You want to be able to go to the doctor. And for the ones that are like, well, it's going to overflow the system and blah, blah, blah. Nobody's going to be able to get in to see their doctor. Okay, maybe if you made education more affordable, we could get more people to go to medical school. And then we could have more doctors. But that's just me thinking out loud. Anyway, I am also pretty pro-socialism.
Yeah.
These are some of your incredible thoughts.
These are my incredible thoughts.
I think socialism is this word that sounds kind of scary that people don't really understand very well. When you actually talk about socialist policies, we've got a ton of them that have made this country work for decades now,
right,
that people don't even realize they're benefiting from. And if you really talk to people, they want more of those things that make our lives more predictable, less unstable, so that things like medical scares that come up unexpectedly, that we're able to deal with those instead of having it ruin us financially.
Isn't it kind of ironic, though, that the whole socialism scare, the communism scare, kind of stemmed from McCarthyism in Russia, and now we're friends with Russia, but we're still afraid of communism and socialism?
It's like fucking bizarro world.
It really
We have gone
is.
through the looking glass.
And in the midst of all of this is Mueller's investigation, and they've wanted the investigation to come to an end for a while now. And the only person standing in the way of anyone getting rid of Mueller is Rosenstein.
Yes.
And it looks like he is going to be they're drawing up articles of impeachment on him.
They've been threatening to do this for a while. And Rosenstein, for a while, seemed like you couldn't tell which way he was going to go. He's actually turned out to be a man of some great integrity.
Well, okay. I'm not defending Jeff Sessions because he's like from the dredges of hell.
Yes, he is.
But even he had the integrity to step aside and let Rosenstein handle the investigation.
He's a Southern gentleman.
Why are you playing with your phone, Ian?
I wasn't. I was actually turning it down in case anybody called. I didn't want to get caught with my pants down again.
Nice.
So in order for this to happen, now this has to get brought to Paul Ryan, right?
Paul Ryan has to bring it to the floor.
Paul Ryan has to bring it to the floor.
Will.
You don't think he will? He's not running for re-election. Do you think that Rosenstein gets impeached? Do you think he goes through the impeachment process?
He might get him.
They might try. The Senate's not going to stand for it. The House is full of a bunch of asshole clowns that are
Jeff Denham.
stoolies for, people like Jeff Denham or what's his name down in Fresno?
Nunez.
Yeah,
Devin Nunes.
Nunez, sorry.
Yeah, he. These are people who are in the pocket of Trump and who are kissing his ass because they think they can hitch their wagon to him. The Senate is different, and they have a bit more decorum, even though they're just as crooked in their own way.
Yeah, they are.
But they're not going to go for these weird. Introducing impeachment is something that is that easy to do. If they know that if the House flips in the fall, that just sets the table for other impeachment conversations. So I don't think it'll happen, but
I don't either. I really don't. And I think even people like John McCain, who also is from the Drudges of Hell, I don't think he would go for it. It's not going to go anywhere, but they're doing it as a show of force. They're saying that Rosenstein is withholding documents. And it's just a way to get more votes. But you can tell, you brought this up earlier, Kelly, that people are getting afraid. You can see kind of the panic set in that there really might be a blue wave.
Yeah.
And people are trying to pass all of these policies right now to get them through. So when the time comes, it's there.
Yep.
So that was another thing I wanted to check in with you guys on real quick. Is I know that since we've started this podcast, we've kind of ebbed and tide, gone up and gone down on whether or not there was going to be a blue wave. And I know that Kelly, you were very pessimistic about whether or not there was going to be a blue wave. I know Michelle, you started out saying there's going to be a massive blue wave, and then you kind of changed your tone. As we get closer and closer to November, where do you stand on that? Do you think, has your opinion changed? Because I don't think there's anything wrong with an opinion changing. I think as the political climate changes and as things come up or go away, one's opinion would change. Do you still feel now as sort of pessimistic as you did a couple of months ago? Do you feel like maybe we're heading in the direction towards a blue wave again?
What I think is that where I do find myself being proud of people, I'm not a total fan of the candidate that we have. I think he's just, honestly, he's one of the people that we've already seen in Congress many, many times.
Are you talking here in Stanislaus County, and that's Josh Harder?
Josh Harder.
Okay.
So,
he smells wonderful. I stood by him.
I'm going to obviously vote for him. And I think Denham, of the two, Denham is an ass clown. And so, by the way, for people out there, I doubt you're listening to this podcast if you would in any way vote for Jeff Denham, but let's not forget that he is one of 7 congressmen that flipped his vote in 2015 to block protections that were being proposed to protect the LGBT federal contract workers. Yeah. So he's really a pile of shit. He was voting in favor of it and then flipped his vote when, it became industrious for him to do so. So...
Pile of shit. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, Jeff Denham is a pile of shit.
Yep.
But
he's no Devin Nunes, but really
right.
Who is?
Right. Devin Nunes is pretty high
a whole
up there.
special level of
Daddy Devin. Sorry, it just flowed off the tongue.
But as far as whether or not a blue wave is coming, I honestly, at this point, I don't know. I think I think the game has changed. It's getting harder and harder to predict because I can see in places like New York, Ocasio-Cortez winning.
Yeah.
But right now we're used to a certain paradigm and we're used to a certain mentality. And the people coming out of high school, 18-year-olds, they're voting differently than we would expect them to. Yeah. So, and I think there are more of them feeling empowered and feeling like voting.
Yeah, how about you, Kelly? Are you as pessimistic as you were when we started about the blue wave? Because you've never really thought that a blue wave was coming.
I am cautiously optimistic, if only because the tea leaves, you can start to see the rats scurrying from the ship. And it's when I see them starting to anticipate it. And that's always been where my sense of dread has come from, is that they seem very confident in the past that they weren't going anywhere. And now it seems like they're starting to worry. And the numbers have shifted dramatically since the Putin conference, actually. I think whatever metric they're using, it's up like 7 or 8 points, Democrats over Republicans to take the House right now. And that doesn't mean anything. We're still far enough out that could shift dramatically. My guess is that what will determine it has nothing to do with Russia or Mueller. Mueller may issue his report before the election, but I think Trump has masterfully inoculated the public so that, they could have video. The P tapes could come out, and I don't think it would bend the ticker as much. I think what it will be is the trade war. If people are hurting in the pocketbook come election time, those farmers, the people that put him in office, are going to stay home. Enough of them are pissed off that it will shift the vote. But there's an outside chance that crazy Trump will thread the needle, and there will be some result from the trade war.
I was going to say, what if the tariffs work?
And they could work short term.
They're not going to work long term.
They won't, but he could. He has enough tricks, and he understands money and the economy just enough that he can make it spark when he needs to. And I'm guessing they will.
And right now, they're talking about putting a tariff on the auto industry, which might put jobs back in Detroit, because the auto industry, a 25% tariff on the auto industry, it's like, well, fuck it. I might as well make cars in the United States because the taxes are now lower. But the problem is they have delegitimized unions so much. What do you think your fucking wages are going to be? Like, really, what do you think your wages are going to be? Look at Amazon right now.
And when you have shit wages like that, you typically get a shit product.
Well, it's not just that. It's so, people are used to the auto industry where people were making a really good wage as tradesmen. And not only that, what do you think is going to happen? They're automating everything.
Right.
So you're not actually really going to get anything from it.
Oh, well, I agree. I guess what I was trying to say was, and it's just one little branch off of what, but if the auto industry did come back to Detroit, and like you were saying, what are the wages? They're going to be shit wages and shit benefits. There's no union. And I don't know about you, but I notice a considerable difference between going grocery shopping at Safeway and buying the same bag of frozen fruit for my smoothies than I do at the Dollar General, where I get the same bag of frozen fruit for my smoothies.
At half the price.
At half the price. But it also smells like shit in there. The customer service is off, and I'm not really sure how long that frozen bag has been there. I question it. Maybe sometimes it's not a very good frozen bag. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm wondering if workers come back in those conditions, paid like they're paid, and now we're getting these American-made vehicles that are made like shit. The automation is going to help considerably.
Well, no, I honestly think that people will still, craftsmen are craft. I mean, tradesmen are tradesmen. They're going to do what they're good at doing. And I don't think that's going to make a difference. I think the price, if people are paid enough to afford the car, the price of the car is going to skyrocket. So it's like constantly chasing your tail, because understand that GM is not going to take a loss. So if they have to make cars here, you're going to pay for it. If you pay 25% tariff on it, you're going to pay for it. Either way, we're not bringing the economy back. We're not bringing the 1950s economy back. I would love to see that. I would love to see people in Detroit making money. I would love to see people in Pennsylvania making money again. It's not going to happen like this. We have to find a better way.
Yeah, we have to invest. I mean, we keep trying to, Trump made a lot of hay about protecting the coal industry and the auto industry and all these things that are sort of relics now of how our economy got to where it is today. But if we don't invest in future technology and industries, we're going to be sunk. And the great magic trick that the Republican Party has pulled off is it's protected corporations and taken off safeguards that that have protected the quality of life in the middle class, is that you have people who are getting poorer and poorer and have less money, less living wage, and they have convinced those people to vote for the very people that are taking their money away from them and giving it to the wealthy.
And they're telling them that it's because they work harder that they have so much money, but there's no connection between how many hours are you working and not making that much money. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't work nearly as hard as a lot of the blue-collar workers in my family did. I mean, I have more liability. There are different pressures, but I make better money. It's because I have a degree.
I put in how many hours of work a day?
Right. And it's not...
Like 5, maybe 6 sometimes.
It's not... I mean, it's not a matter of working harder than someone. It's a matter of the luck of the draw. It's privilege. I've had family that supported me. I've been able to get stipends and grants because of who I know. I don't doubt for 1 second that my skin color helped. Ultimately, what I really wish we could get across to the general public is it's going to change. It might not be my generation, but the next generation, they're tired of being poor. They want an opportunity. They don't want Betsy fucking DeVos because right now she's talking about defunding the programs that helped alleviate the debt incurred by the for-profit schools.
Yep.
So people don't want to live in debt. You don't want to pay $75,000 to become a fucking medical assistant and make $10 an hour. I mean...
Yeah, there's a million ways that we're getting fucked over by the system. and the ice is getting thinner and thinner. And so what I really think is that all these people who are already predicting Trump will get reelected, I feel less and less sure that that's going to happen. I feel more and more optimistic that he is still enjoying roughly the same, and sometimes even he gets bumps in his approval ratings. He's up around 45%, where he spent most of his first year closer to 30%. That's inexplicable to me, but I think it's also deceptive because it's like there are termites in the foundation of his base. And he is stretching them thinner and thinner, and they're going to ride. He'll have ride or dies that go with him the whole way. But there's also going to be a point where the ice gets so thin that he falls right through it.
I think like you said, there are ride or dies. I think we should stop fucking trying to convince his base that he shouldn't be supported. I mean, that they don't care.
I think I'm done arguing. Honestly, I think I'm done arguing.
I am. I'm done. I haven't argued with people in
They
a really
thrive
long
on
time.
it. Really, that's the source of so much of their power is that they get us fighting amongst ourselves.
And it's just pointless. It's absolutely pointless. What I think will help is those people who are like, oh, Trump's not that bad. If we get a candidate that people want to support, they'll leave Trump. Those ones will leave Trump.
Yeah.
Because
totally.
they're just, like, oh yeah, economy's doing better. I don't see what's so bad about him, but they're not diehards. So that's what we need. I see a lot of hope in the fact that Dianne Feinstein, was finally not endorsed by the DNC, which is huge. And it's not by them, their choice. That was not their choice. That was actually the collective. They voted to endorse what's his name? I forget.
Well, it wasn't Di-Fi, so there's that.
So they voted by like 60% to endorse him, and he's the more progressive candidate. So, I mean, she did her due diligence. Dianne Feinstein was a warrior in her day, but it's done now.
Time to move on.
Now to get Nancy Pelosi to relinquish her death grip on the House of Representatives.
Good luck with that.
Seriously, it's not going to happen.
Hey, you can check us out, facebook.com/That's Delightful, if you want to weigh in and give us your comments there. And, of course, if you want to send us a voicemail, we'd love to get it at 209-232-5807. Hey, real quick, the Guardians of the Galaxy is down a guy, and the Nerdist is up a guy. Kelly?
Okay, so listen. We just got done a few months ago talking about Roseanne. It was just a month ago or two. I don't. Time is all relative now. It all feels kind of
now that I'm
squidgy.
40, I don't really notice days. I just notice weeks.
No, I mean, it's more in terms of like how much shit Trump has done between now and then. But I mean, Roseanne was fired, right? She tweeted some horrible racist shit. And that day she was fired. The day she tweeted it, she got fired. There had already been a lot of speculation that it was pretty iffy that she was rehired in the first place because she had a long history of tweeting horrible racist shit, propagating weird conspiracy theories, etc. But she took it one step too far and she got fired. Along those same lines, she was fired by ABC, owned by the Disney Corporation. James Gunn is a director. He directed the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Guardians of the Galaxy 2, which have made more than $1 billion around the world. James Gunn, when Disney hired him, I was so excited because he is not the kind of guy Disney usually hires. James Gunn worked for a film company called Troma. Did you ever watch any Troma films?
You'd have to tell me what some Troma films are.
Well, I will tell you.
Off the top of your head, can you think of any James Gunn movies?
Romeo and Juliet. So The Toxic Avenger is like probably the best known Troma film. Did you ever see The Toxic Avenger?
Isn't that an old movie?
Oh, yeah.
That's from a while ago, right?
Yeah,
I've
who
seen
gets
that.
mutated by nuclear waste and he goes out with his mop and defends the American way. So that's Troma. Troma specialized in like you hear of like B movies that are like not that good. Troma's like below B movies, like low budget, poor taste, lots of shitty like gruesome violence and sex, nudity, tasteless jokes about rape, and it was sort of a relic of the 80s.
Hold on. A joke about rape is tasteless?
Yeah, can you believe that?
Okay.
So James Gunn worked for Troma, and he made horrible, it was in bad taste, but it was a known quantity. And then he graduated. He made a movie called Slither, which is a really gruesome but funny horror movie.
I think I've heard of it.
He was married to Jenna Fisher, who played Pam on The Office.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway,
Are they no longer a thing?
They were divorced a few years back. And he also made a movie called Super with Dwight from The Office. and the girl from Juno.
Yes, he
Do you
was.
remember that one? They played vigilantes.
Yeah,
and
the
it was super
vigilante guy.
violent.
Yeah.
So he came from this background of high violence and bad taste, but that was who Disney hired, and everybody at the time was just like, really? Cool, Disney, way to be cool. So at that time, before he was hired by Disney, he made some tweets back in the day, and they were in bad taste. They were horrible jokes about rape and pedophilia. They were jokes. He was not caught being a pedophile or anything like that. But either way, Disney hired him with these tweets in the public domain. And what happened was last week, some conservative trolls who aren't happy that James Gunn has been outspoken against the president dredged up his old tweets and made an issue of them, gave them to Disney and said, we demand he be fired. And Disney's like, makes sense to us. And they fired him that day.
Fuck you, Disney.
So this is, it's again, a nuanced needle to thread because Disney fired Roseanne, and I ultimately think that was the right call to make. I think this is different, and I think it's a problem that he was fired. When we start dredging up all this old stuff, there are things that were in bad taste 10 years ago, but in a range of acceptability that isn't there today, and for good reason. James Gunn, for his part, put out a lovely statement where he said, I accept the consequences of this. He had apologized for the tweets back then. I just think that it's a pretty damn slippery slope now where we have people feigning outrage in order to score political points against people that they disagree with politically.
Well, I think this is finally a win for conservatives because they suck at boycotting shit.
Yeah, no,
Not their strong suit.
What exactly did the tweet say?
I haven't
before I
seen them.
snapped to judgment.
I haven't seen them. I'm sure that they were horrible. But again, there are the people who have actually lost their jobs are people like Al Franken and James Gunn, who the primary knock against them is that they, Al Franken was in his own category because there was some groping as well. James Gunn made jokes about pedophilia, cannibalism. I don't know. Can you find them? I'd love to see them.
Going to.
I don't know if I'd love to see them, but I'm willing to see them.
Another read, the best thing about being raped is when you're done being raped and it's like, ooh, this feels great not being raped.
Is that what he said?
That was one of them.
That's pretty bad.
Yeah, not good.
One
Not good.
tweet read, I like when little boys touch me in my silly place.
Not good.
For
That's
a
not good.
Disney movie, pedophilia.
But again, this was in the public domain when they hired him. He didn't, in Roseanne's case, she tweeted that day a brand new shitty thing and then defended it.
And it stacks up with a whole bunch of other shitty things that happened recently.
Right.
I don't know. I'm on the fence on that. I mean, I think if you look in anybody's past, stuff will come up that shouldn't be said or shouldn't be done. I mean, there's no way that I'll ever be able to run for political office.
Or
there's
me.
no way that Michelle will ever be able to run for political office because of me. There's stuff that happened 10 years ago, and it sounds like this guy apologized for it once before. Roseanne got a second chance, and she fucked it up. This guy apologized for something he said 10 years ago then, and it came up again, and he's basically paying the consequences for it twice. And in that regards, I don't think it's right. I also don't think that the tweets are excusable. But Roseanne, just 3-4 short years ago, had a picture taken of herself, a very professional picture, dressed as Hitler, pulling gingerbread cookies out of the oven. And they said, all right, hey, you're going to knock that shit off if we do this, right? No, I'm good. And then she did what she did. I think that's different.
Definitely.
So where I understand him, because I think you are similar in this way. He says, many people who have followed my career know when I started, I viewed myself as a provocateur, making movies and telling jokes that were outrageous and taboo. As I've discussed publicly many times, as I've developed as a person, so has my work and my humor.
Yeah.
And then he has gone on to apologize. And I'm not saying, it also, where I'm a little irritated is when Milo Yiannopoulos said it. People did face the backlash, but he's back.
Yeah, totally.
And, it's...
And, I think at the end of the day, I have to, at the time that Roseanne was fired, I said, businesses have the right to fire anyone for any reason, and I have to accept that Disney can fire James Gunn if they want. It's not illegal. It's not unconstitutional.
Right.
Same rules apply. I just think that it wasn't expedient. I think the things I like about this, and whether James Gunn stays fired or not, there is a petition that has hundreds of thousands of signatures on it. All of his co-stars, people that have been in his movies have come out, men and women, and said, listen, we all knew this about him. He has, he didn't come out with an apology when it was discovered. He's been apologizing for it for years and making statements about it. I think he modeled how to accept the consequences, and if that's what this ends up being, I think, what he said was, regardless of how much time has passed, I understand and accept the business decisions taken today. Even these many years later, I take full responsibility for the way I conducted myself. All I can do now, beyond offering my sincere and heartfelt regret, is to be the best human I can be, accepting, understanding, committed to equality, and far more thoughtful about my public statements and my obligations to our public discourse. So, it is what it is. I hate this point scoring that happens, but...
With Roseanne, I was on Ambien, and literally almost verbatim, I thought the bitch was white.
Well,
yeah, did you hear that one last week? She got drunk and released a video saying...
What he said wasn't right, but it's different. I think this is different.
Well, I can't defend rape jokes. I won't. I won't defend it.
Nobody is.
Yeah, I'm not... Yeah, agreed.
But what I will say is nobody is perfect. And it would be extremely hypocritical of me, because my husband has been a provocateur in the past and still trolls, but to a lesser degree.
Provocateur.
But if you read or watch some of his old YouTube videos, you're going to see a lot of shit. And it was made in poor taste, in my opinion, but it's not something that I think is unforgivable.
I was just thinking about the accessibility of those videos. I've scrubbed the internet, I believe, of those videos.
There's always a way.
There's always a way.
Well, we had this conversation when the Me Too movement started in earnest, more than a year ago now, about, and this is only slightly related to that conversation, but it's the same sort of idea of how and when and do we forgive people for past indiscretions. How severe do the indiscretions need to be where they can come back from it? When should someone lose their livelihood? These are all questions that, there's not a clear answer to. Except to say that we've started to see a few people start to emerge who their apologies are not conditional. They don't seem calculated. And what I would like to see happen is that it progress the public discourse instead of becoming a tit for tat. Like, you can find, like you said, shit on anybody. Everybody's got shit in their background. So,
for instance, Kelly's Instagram only had 2 little girls on it for a while. That wasn't weird.
For those just joining in, I didn't know how to work Instagram, so I only managed to get a picture of my daughter up and a picture of my sister's daughter. So I had my niece and my daughter for like 2 years. That was all you saw on my Instagram.
But
so people would follow me. I would get these notices on Instagram, and I would panic because I would know they were like, "Oh, they found me on Instagram. Let's see what Kelly has." Oh, Emily in a Donatello mask.
I think that it goes back to like what you were saying. We have to think of things in context. We really do. And I'm not saying it's okay what Al Franken did. I'm not saying it's okay what James Gunn did. I'm saying that there was a time where this was widely accepted, and now all of a sudden, because it's not, we have to go back and force people to repent. And it's not okay, in my opinion, to constantly, and I mean, this goes back to the teachings that I have. If people make a genuine effort to change who they are, we can't continue to hold them responsible for things they've done in their past. I don't want to be held responsible forever for things I've done in my past. I don't think it's right to do that, and I doubt anybody else does either. I mean, I know one person specifically who did feign a rape and later admitted it, and at this point is a decent human being. It's everything. If, like I said, if you are willing to change, Roseanne isn't fucking willing to change. She still posts the same shit. So there's no accountability for what she did.
Right.
And she needs to continue to be held accountable.
There's an I'm sorry I got caught.
Right.
Is Roseanne.
And it's Ambien, not me.
And
yeah.
Unfair.
On that same token, now you also wanted to talk about the Nerdist, the podcast The Nerdist, because...
Yeah, the more we talk about it, the more I realize that may be a different conversation. Because what we had was Chris Hardwick, an ex-girlfriend of his, released a long statement that detailed sexual abuse and emotional abuse by a former boyfriend who was pretty clearly him. He immediately lost his job, was fired from all of his hosting gigs. He's got a number of jobs, and retreated from the public spotlight. And what happened today was he was reinstated. He got his job back at AMC.
After an investigation, it
There was
turns
a
out...
thorough investigation. They worked with a law firm that sort of specializes in this kind of thing. There was sort of a huge public outpouring from, again, people he's worked with throughout the years, former girlfriends, former co-stars, who said this is very far removed from our experience with him. So it's still a messy conversation. It was found to be unfounded enough that they felt it appropriate to reinstate him. But this is sort of the other end of the conversation that we tried to anticipate, a year ago, of what will happen when these things happen, when it's more of an unclear picture. And what does that mean?
Well, I mean, it's obviously also a different conversation. But, we've had a lot of viral videos. ID Adam, Barbecue Becky, Permit Patty, all these cute
That?
Really?
I don't know what those are.
So Permit Patty was the one who called the police called the police on a little African-American child for selling water on the street and disturbing her peace.
Oh, I did see that.
ID Adam targeted a black family at their community pool and insisted she show identification, even though nobody else had to show identification. And he was in no fucking way responsible for that. So
Lost his job.
Yep, he called the police. And the cop came out and said, do you have a swipe? Because he was like, you need to show an ID. And she's like, where the fuck do you want me to produce an ID from? I'm in a bathing suit. And so the cop came out and said, do you have an access card? She goes, yeah. And he took it, swiped it, and said, all right, you're good. And left. I mean, but there was a recent video that I think we're getting into the weeds with, where the director of research at Harvard, who is, known for her philanthropy, so she was irritated by the little girl screaming and, came downstairs and confronted the mom and asked her, told her that she had these kids sleeping, and she was lying. She didn't have children. And, the most offensive thing that she said was, are you in the affordable housing or are you Harvard? And the woman said, it's none of your fucking business. I live here. It's my property. And I mean, valid. But people turned it into, she was racist. And my thing is there's no metric for that. There was no other family to say that she targeted this one.
Yeah.
Was she ignorant? Yes. But in the same way that San Francisco, this is my pet peeve, San Francisco is fucking bougie, one of the most liberal cities in the world. And, instead of recognizing that they have homeless on their streets defecating, complain about the property values going down because of the homeless, and worry about fucking plastic straws.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the same thing.
If I can, why don't we table this then to next week? Because I think there's a few things we can get out of this. I think we can talk about the rash of videos that came out, because those are starting to hit their boomerang.
Most of them are legitimate.
Most are legitimate, but some are starting to hit their boomerang, just like the Me Too movement. Most of it's legitimate, but like you were talking about, and you wanted to talk about this on the Nerdist too, and we'll table it to next week. Sure. Some of the fringe stuff is coming around where it's not legitimate. How do you handle that?
Right.
So why don't we table that to next week?
If we can, just to cap this conversation off for this week, if there's anybody who deserves our hatred and disdain, it's Brock Turner today.
Oh, what did he fucking do?
So they're trying to overturn his rape conviction.
Fuck him.
Do you want to know why?
Why?
You probably don't want to know, because you'll just feel gross inside. But
because they never actually had sex.
He was only trying to have outer course, so it wasn't rape. Outer course. They're trying to coin a new phrase. So it's not going to work.
He was raping her, and there were witnesses that he was raping her.
Yeah.
So
Brock Turner, asshole of the week.
You got off on a fucking 3-month sentence.
Well,
I hope someone shits on his face.
You know, and I did a Where's Brock
Unless
Turner
that's
Now.
what he's into, and then I hope they don't.
To cap off your cap off, I did a Where's Brock Turner Now, and he's working for a landscape company back home in, like, I think it's Ohio, and he has to register for life as a sex offender. So while I think that he's a piece of shit, and I hope it doesn't get overturned, I understand why he's doing it, because he probably is having a hard time finding employment or doing anything else with his life, because he has to tell everybody that he comes in contact with these applications, resumes, jobs, etc. Oh, by the way, I'm also a rapist, and that probably puts a damper on your job prospects.
Aww,
So
poor
right, I
little
know,
rich white boy.
poor Brock Turner.
Oh, Brock.
I mean, oh God, he's a disgusting human being. It's almost as bad. I think it was a Canadian court where the judge, or it might have been Washington State, it was somewhere fucking near there, where the judge said that she could have kept her legs closed if she didn't want to be forced.
The pants were too tight for him to take off. She had to have taken them off, and that was that's asking for it.
That person still has their job.
Hey, my shorts, I'm wearing basketball shorts, but they come up past my knee. And if you grab my junk right now, I've got no recourse because I've made them too accessible. I've made my junk too appealing for you to grab. I'm asking for it right now.
Now I can't help but look.
No, go ahead.
I had to.
It's okay.
I had to have, like, I mean, obviously, we're gonna get into the weeds again, but
We're tabling, so quick.
when I had a conversation at work the other day where I hear women talking about other women and what they're wearing and whether or not they're wearing makeup and whether or not they're asking for it because you're in a prison, and it's really irritating to me that we continue to blame the victim in various ways and we tear down other women. So yeah, let's talk about all this next week.
Stop asking for it and it won't happen.
Oh God.
Is the mentality that should not be had. All right. Hey, on that note, Kelly, what have you found delightful in these past couple of weeks?
Oh my gosh, so many things, you guys. So many things. For one, Mission Impossible comes out this weekend, and I'm so excited. You know what I've decided? God bless Tom Cruise, you guys. He just wants to entertain us all the damn time.
And his 5'7" self.
I'm taller than him, but he is more entertaining than me. He runs faster than me. You know what? He broke his ankle filming this movie, and he still fast ran with a broken ankle for America.
I despise his interviews, though, because he comes off sounding like such a pompous fuck. You know, I broke, and I knew it happened, but in my head, all I kept thinking was, let's get the shot. Did you hear that interview?
Yeah, but
fuck you, Tom Cruise.
But he's like a puppy dog. He means every word of that shit. I love it. He learned how to fly a fucking helicopter for America.
Are you proud of me now? Are you proud of me? I ran when my ankle was broken. Are you proud of me? Tell me how proud of me you are.
Sorry, the whole Scientology thing, I can't get back.
No, I can, because he makes great movies and he can believe whatever the fuck he wants. But what I really find delightful this week is Mamma Mia 2, you guys. It was so delightful. I found it delightful.
Your son sang a different tune.
Here's what happened. It was a long week. I wanted some sun and cheer in my life. My mom had a long week, and I said, "Hey, you want to go see that Mamma Mia?" She's like,
"Mamma Mia."
She's like, "Yes, I do." And so I had a feeling my daughter would love it, and I love it when I have good hunches about my kids. Because what I did was I rented it for her.
The first one.
Yeah, and she watched it and was enchanted because the music of ABBA, let's be honest, is delightful. It is the definition of delightful. Okay, you guys. Swedish pop in general is delightful. We can get into that another time. My kids did not. My boys. So Emily watched and loved it. My boys, Will and Jack, did not watch the first Mamma Mia. And I thought to myself, it's a bunch of fucking ABBA songs. Like, they don't need context. They can walk into the second one dry and not have any problem. The second one is actually sort of a convoluted plot that jumps around in time and requires you to know a lot of things about the first one. So they watched it with no idea what was happening. Bottom line, though, the music... enchanting. You know who's amazing? Who
Cher?
I love more every time? No, Cher looks like a Muppet of Cher.
I love Cher.
Cher looks like...
Don't say that while I'm drinking tea.
She looks like Janice from Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem. She looks
Yes, that's
like
not
a
a
Muppet.
weird fucking reference. Anyway, go ahead.
That was all I could think when I saw her. Her face doesn't move one time. She sings entire songs without moving her face, and I don't know how she did it. But Amanda Seyfried, you guys,
Oh yeah.
I love her.
national treasure.
I love her.
You should watch
that
Big Love.
fresh-faced. Okay.
I know you. I know it might.
I was just watching Red Riding Hood before you got here.
I just love Amanda Seyfried. I didn't always love her. She was sort of like the dumb character in Mean Girls, and like you're just kind of like, oh, whatever.
I loved her. I think that was probably one of her best.
She was really funny. She was Lily Kane in Veronica Mars, but Amanda Seyfried, just a revelation. And then somebody played the younger version of Meryl Streep, and it was that girl from Cinderella. She played Cinderella in the title role of Cinderella, the live action one that came out.
Nope.
She was in Downton Abbey. Anyway,
nope.
She was great. She was in Baby Driver. She played the girl that's in love with Baby Driver. Deborah. That's right.
Yeah.
You met her at
watched that the other
JCPenney.
day.
Thought her name tag said Jenny. Go step again.
I got Michelle to watch Baby Driver. No, I didn't get. I put it on. I did what I do, which is put on movies, and then just I have a hunch. Like I think Michelle will get into this one, and she got into Baby Driver.
Oh, and I'm so disappointed about Kevin Spacey again.
I know. Right? That was like his last good role.
And he's so good.
The last time you're allowed to enjoy Kevin Spacey. Mamma Mia too. If your mileage may vary, but it was just what I needed, and I laughed a lot. I cried a little. Yeah. Thank you, Meryl Streep and company.
And Michelle, what do you find delightful this past week?
You go first. I
What?
want to know if we find the same thing. Go ahead.
Are you gonna do the concert?
I don't know.
Because if you are, you can go. That's not what I'm gonna do.
I know what you're gonna do then.
Okay. I don't think you do, but we'll see. We'll see. I find Sacha Baron Cohen delightful this week. You knew it?
Yep.
Is that what you're gonna do too?
No. I just
Okay.
knew that.
I was gonna say you better not. This Matt Stone and Trey Parker hater.
His new Showtime show, Who is America? So his first episode of that show was real hit and miss up until the kindergarten segment where he got actual people in Washington to read off of a teleprompter that it's a good idea to put guns in specially talented trained preschoolers to defend
3-year-olds.
themselves in school.
And then he got someone to explain the science behind it by using fucking singers with weird names. Cardi B, Rita Ora. Oh,
The
my
Cardi
God.
B is not fully developed and has not connected with the Rita Ora.
I was...
That was amazing.
I want to find that delightful, and I appreciate what he's doing, but it's so embarrassing that I can't.
This past week, one of his characters is an Israeli defense or general rather, and he got Jason Spencer, who's a representative out of Georgia. Have you seen this one yet?
Yeah, it's
Have you seen the video? Oh my goodness. He gets this guy to run around screaming the N-word. He gets him to drop his pants all the way down to his bare butt, back up and say, "You're going to be gay. You're going to be gay." He gets him to mimic and mock Chinese people. He got him to stare at a guy's penis for about a minute, which I thought was hilarious.
It's just astonishing.
He got
so
him on tape
embarrassing.
yelling, "Fuck you, sand N-word." This guy dug in, Jason Spencer, and said because he did not win the primary. He was going to be out in January.
Yeah.
He said, "There's no way I'm going to leave until my term is up." And I read an article today. The reason he said that was because he would have earned an extra $7,000 in salary, and he would have been eligible for free healthcare for life, which I guess is what politicians get if they serve a certain amount of time.
Fuck that.
And he finally was pressured enough that he's going to resign by the end of July. So he's out.
Oh, God, he's a horrible human being.
But what Sacha Baron Cohen is getting these politicians to just do on camera, to me, is just I don't know if I should be sad or if it makes me happy. I've got a mixture of emotions.
They sign waivers and sit in front of cameras. I don't. What
It's
on
supremely embarrassing. I mean, it really is. He got Trent Lott to endorse the kindergarten program. So it was funny because he sat down. I don't remember who the senator was, but he sat down with one guy, and the guy was like, "You want me to publicly endorse putting guns in the hands of preschoolers? Nobody is going to do that." And then the next instant, they cut away.
TMZ got that guy at the airport, and I forget his name too, but he was the youngest one out of all of them. He was a GOPer.
Oh, yeah.
But he was like, he was tuning. He's like, I fucking know something's not right here. And then he actually had a pretty good sense of humor about it. He's like, I love Sacha Baron Cohen. I love Borat. It's one of my favorites. I loved Ollie G. I thought Bruno was a stupid movie, but he's a funny guy, and the motherfucker got me. And I wish I would have known it was him because I would have given him my Borat impression because I think Borat's one of my favorite movies. Like, he knew. He was clued in.
But I mean, like, it was just like, he was like, nobody is going to fall for that.
Right.
And then they just got a whole bunch of people to do it. Oh, God.
And then Dick Cheney, Dick Cheney was actually pretty well reserved when he was interviewing Dick Cheney. There was a couple of off the cuff moments, but I mean, for the most part, and he kind of took some low blows. Talked about when Dick Cheney shot that guy in the face with a shotgun. But he got Dick Cheney to sign a waterboarding kit.
Oh God, I know. It was like so uncomfortable.
But I would say this: when it comes to this show, it's a mixed bag of nuts because half of the skits that he does are not that funny, kind of crude, kind of But some of them just make your jaw drop and you're like, what the fuck am I watching right now? I can't believe that they're falling for this. So it's Ollie G. It's his brand new show, Who Is America? And you can find it on Showtime. There are 2 episodes in if you have on demand. Okay, you go, Michelle.
Okay, I had a hard time with this because I do want to say that the Imagine Dragons concert was the shit. We had a do-over the first time I took my son to an Imagine Dragons concert. This punk ass in front of us was bitter. I don't know. He said Sean was kicking his seat. He might have been. He was rocking out pretty hard. He was 7 and... totally into the concert, and this guy's like, you're kicking my seat. And he was like, kick it again. And I'm like, what the fuck are you gonna do? And I got pretty much in his face. I'm like, what are you gonna do? And he was like, I'll break both your legs. And then Sean started crying, so we had to leave the concert, and he was all bummed out. So we got a do-over, and I was sitting next to a woman, and she asked if I'd ever seen him, and I was explaining, what had happened, and she was like, oh, that won't happen here. And I started like, nice. Cool. And then she found a spot because a bunch of drunk assholes decided to stand. They decided to be the ones to stand. And
we were in the lawn, like in the fringe of the lawn, all the way in the back of the arena or the pavilion, Concord Pavilion. Yeah.
And I mean, they were like seriously, there was nobody in front of them. They could have, there were people in front of them, but nobody was standing. They could have watched the show sitting down. And the guy was like, let's everybody stand up. And Ian goes, no, there are 8 and 6-year-olds here. So there.
Did you notice that he looked at me and just kind of was like,
Yeah. So we got the woman that said, oh, that's not going to happen here. She went down a little bit and found an open spot and told me and Sean, you can come over here and watch it here. So I found another drunk woman who she had her kids, and Ian had to watch Jack roll down the hill the whole concert. But, this woman was standing there. Sean got to rock out really hard, and the concert's just amazing. They do a good job. And I have like a lot of respect for Imagine Dragons just because of what they do. Dan Reynolds. So there's that one. And then...
Such a good show.
You hated it.
It was like the most boring fucking thing I've ever been to.
Why?
Because I literally sat off to the side where I couldn't see shit because our 6-year-old had no interest at all. So I watched a 6-year-old roll down a hill for about 2 hours. It was fucking miserable.
I had fun. I've had to listen to Goo Goo Dolls 3 times.
And the last time you just sat down and played on your phone. You're playing on your phone half of this show, too.
No, I wasn't.
The video I have is you on your phone.
I was getting recordings of Sean. Don't be a dick. Yeah, I guess that's about it.
What's the other thing you have?
It might have been lip sense. I've never worn lipstick in my life. I know you guys care pretty hardcore about this. I've never worn lipstick in my life. No, I have. I just don't wear it that often because it comes off and it bugs me. So by the time I'm done drinking my coffee, it's off and on my cup. So I got lip sense from a coworker. She sells it, and she was selling it for $10 a pop, which is half the price. So I bought a few colors, and now I get to wear lipstick.
You wearing pirated lipstick at work?
It wasn't pirated. She sells it.
When did you buy lip sense?
Last month.
And you didn't share any with me?
You're stupid.
One of these days I'm going to tell you guys a story about the time I wore lipstick. It did not end well.
Was it for a joke or like you were like...
It's sort of a long story.
Okay. So hang on. Let me pull up my notes. Next week, Kelly lipstick.
What's lip sense then? Is it like gloss? More glossy?
No. So it's a lip stain. They use alcohol to get it to dry on your lips, and then you use, because it's super sticky, you use a lip gloss that sets it, and it doesn't fucking come off, like for nothing. It's amazing.
So you shellac it on with the alcohol, then you give it
the magic shell of
a glossy clear coat.
It really is. It's amazing. I'm like,
It sounds like you're painting a car.
I'm super excited about it. So I don't believe in that shit, and I wasn't gonna buy it. And then, yeah, I did.
You should become a lip sense representative.
No. I don't sell shit because I'm not good at it. I'll end up buying more than I have.
All right. You can check us out. Facebook.com/That's Delightful. On Twitter @DelightfulCast. And Patreon.com/That's Delightful. Till next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to That's Delightful. Online at totallydelightfulstuff.com, Facebook.com/That's Delightful, and on Twitter @That's Delightful1.